In this video, I'm going to teach you how to make your very own Ferminator. Before I show you how to build your very own Ferminator, I need to go through a couple basics just so you understand why we actually are doing this and how to get the best success with your fermentations. First, I need to explain what happens during lactofermentation, the process of fermenting vegetables or sauerkraut or peppers in our case. So, lactofermentation. Lactofermentation is the process whereby good bacteria, in our case lactobacillus, processes our food and turns it into the lovely goodness that we eat. So what's actually happening is the lactobacillus is processing the sugars. It's eating up the sugars essentially inside whatever vegetables you have there. It's turning those sugars into lactic acid, and that process helps to preserve the food and also give it the flavor that we have. Preserves the flavor but also adds to it as well. So our job is to make sure that the lactobacillus bacteria is in the best possible environment that it can be in, so that it will replicate and reproduce, and it will be able to do its job a lot better. Now there's two core things that it needs to be able to survive. Number one, which is very lucky for us, is that it can survive a salty environment. Now why is that lucky for us? Well, other bad bacteria can't survive in that salty environment. So let's imagine this is a brine. Salty brine, it's about 2%. I generally use 2% brine, 2% salt, and you keep your vegetables submerged below that brine. The second thing that the lactobacillus needs to be able to reproduce and do its job is the correct temperature. And that temperature is between 18 degrees Celsius and 22 degrees Celsius. That doesn't mean that it can't survive outside of these temperature ranges, but it is the optimal temperature that we need to do the job we're trying to do. So what we're building today is something that can maintain this temperature range, and that is the Ferminator. So the Ferminator is basically just a chamber that I've built that can maintain a specific temperature range. I don't only use it for lactofermentation, but I use it for brewing beer and wine and other things like that. So basically, all that the Ferminator is a temperature control chamber. In my case, I've used an old fridge as the chamber, and I have a small heating element at the base, and that's all controlled by a temperature controller. I like to keep the temperature at about 19 degrees Celsius. You want your fermentation to go slowly, you don't want to rush it, and by having it at 19 degrees or even 20 degrees, then you're doing a good job. Any higher than that and you might be making it ferment just a little bit too quickly, and when it comes to the chili sauces, I find that it's not as tasty as when I do the lower temperatures. Let's go and have a look at my fermenting chamber. So this here is where all the action happens. Nothing surprising, it is literally a fridge. So what we have down the bottom there is the heating element, like I mentioned. That's this thing over here. It's a ceramic heater. I believe it's 60 watts. So it doesn't have to be very strong because obviously it's a fridge, so it's insulated, which can help maintain the temperature without it fluctuating too much. Now I just have a elderberry and pear cider that I've created here, but like I say, I brew my beer in here and my wine and all these other things as well, because they all like a similar temperature range. So that's a heater down the bottom. At the top here, that's a small fan. It doesn't have to be big when the heating turns on. That just helps circulate it and get the temperature to be more even throughout the fridge. Other than that, it is a normal fridge, but this is where it differs a little bit. This is the controller that I use. It's an STC 1000, and that's this over here. It comes as a bare bones unit, which I have now put inside a project box. You don't have to, but it just makes it neater and keeps the dust out and all that sort of thing. That will control the temperature levels. Up the top here are just 2 plug sockets that I've put in. So these are just standard plugs, UK plugs. And you can see that I've labeled them. That's red, obviously, for the heating part of this. And then the blue is for the fridge itself. I haven't done anything fancy with that. That's just the standard plug that is for the fridge. So let's power it on and have a look at a couple of the functions. So we see the temperature in there at the moment is 20.3 degrees. I have this set already at 19 degrees Celsius. We can easily check that. If you press the up button, it shows you that that's my set temperature. If I press the down button, it shows us what the hysteresis is. The hysteresis is quite useful because it helps this not to switch on and off all the time. What it will do is, if I've set it at 19 degrees, the cooling will only kick in if it's above 19.7 degrees. And the same thing with the heating. If it gets below 18.3 degrees, then the heating will kick in. Let's have a quick look at the settings. Hold down the S button and it'll go into the settings. F1 is the set temperature, so probably the most important thing here. F2 is the hysteresis. And F3 is the delay in minutes before the compressor will kick in again for the cooling. So for example, in this case, the fridge. So let's have a quick look inside the box and we can see what's going on. First thing I need to do is I'm going to turn this off at the wall. We are working with mains voltage here, so we make sure we have no connection to the wall when we're opening this up, just to be on the safe side. So take this out. This side here is just the backing plates of these normal plug sockets. You can see the wiring going in, and over here this is the actual temperature controller, the thing that does all the magic. So inside this there are 2 relays. One is for the cooling, one is for the heating. Both of them are high voltage relays, so it can handle up to 220 volts. They can handle also 10 amps on each of these, so more than enough for what we're doing. This over here is for the sensor. I didn't show that to you, but inside the fridge itself there's a small sensor. I'll show that to you in a little bit. That sensor is obviously detecting the temperature inside the fridge. And this here is the power supply coming in. So we see how I've wired this up. Essentially what you're doing is you have the brown here is live, and brown is coming in. There's constant live and constant neutral when the power is switched on at the wall, and that goes in to power this up. Then the live is going into one of the relays, and the output is going out to the plug. And what happens is when the relay kicks in using this device, when the temperature gets to where it needs to be, the relay kicks in and it will connect up these 2 wires essentially, and it will transfer power to the plug socket. And that's all it's doing really. It's pretty straightforward. So let's seal that back up, close it up. So I'm going to switch this back on at the wall, and you'll see it showing the temperature inside the fridge. This here is the temperature sensor, which is plugged into the STC1000 at the top there. And what I'll do, so we can see there, that's the temperature at the moment. If I now hold on to that sensor at the end, we'll see this start to increase quite rapidly. I get questioned quite a bit when I am fermenting my peppers and making my sauces why I put things inside the fridge, but hopefully now you'll know why, and hopefully you can even build your own one now. If you do have any questions, let me know in the comments below and I'll try and help as best I can. There'll be links below for everything that I use to build the Ferminator, and hopefully you can build your own one. It really helps to control your fermentation. It really takes you to that next level. Far fewer mistakes, and you're going to end up having some fantastic sauces. Talking about sauces, it's that time of the year. In the next couple of months, there are going to be quite a few videos that I'll be releasing around my sauces I'm making. I have some great recipes and sauces that I'm going to share with you, and make sure that you're subscribed. Make sure that you got the bell icon switched on as well, so you get alerted when I do release new videos. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate every single view, every comment, and every like. Thank you, and we'll see you again on the next video. Bye bye for now.